Okay, so in today's session, we are going to discuss about numerical and string functions and how to create those functions in Tableau. So these are the key objectives that we are going to discuss: how to create numerical functions and how to create numerical calculation fields and how to use string functions in Tableau. So there are some basic functions that we have. 30 to 40 functions most of the time we use in Tableau. So I'll just show you where we see these functions. So I'm just connecting to the Tableau sample superstore database. So here we can click on create calculator field, and here we can see the list of functions. So in all these functions, we might use 30 to 40 functions in Tableau, which is most useful. And separately, you can see number functions. So these are related to numbers. And we have string functions. And we also have date functions and all. So we'll see one by one how we can create these functions in Tableau. So now let's discuss about round function. So before going to see, can you all see my screen? Is it visible? Okay. Okay, so before going to see about this string functions, so I'll tell you about decimals. So this is a normal decimal number, and when you do round off, what will you get? And there is one more function which you have, ceiling and floor. Okay, so these are the things that are available. Okay, so when I say round off, so what will be the value when I do round off this one? So let's say I'll copy it here. So mathematically, when you do round figure for this number, so 25.25, so this will become 25. Okay, so it is taking the least number. So whichever value has more than 25.5. Okay, so let's say in this case, what happens? So it will take the next highest digit. So it will become 25.5. So if we do round off, so in Excel we have like to remove the decimal places, you can use these things, or to increase the decimal places, you can use this arrow mark. So I want to remove this decimal places. So when you're trying to remove decimal places, it will do a round off basically. So in this case, what it will do is 25.5. If you do a round off, it will become 26. So this is mathematically. So whenever you have something which is more than 25.5 or equal to 25.5, so that will be, so if you do a round off, it will become 26. And whichever value is less than like 25.4, so in this case, it will become 25. So you can see, so when you do a round off, it will take, so when you do a round off, it will take the least digit or least number. Okay, so to control this thing, so ceiling function, which will take the highest highest integer. So every time whenever you take, so if the decimal place is there, so instead of taking, so there are two choices we have, whether it will be highest number or the lowest number. Okay, so depending on the value after the dot, so it round off function will decide whether it has to be a 25 or 26. But in ceiling function, every time it will be 26. Why? Because every time it will take the highest integer. Whether it might be 25.4 or 25.6, every time it will take highest integer. In case of floor, it will take lowest integer. So which will become 25 all the time. Okay, so let's try 35.4. Prashant, can you tell me what is the round off value for 35.4? Yeah. What will be the ceiling value? 36. What about floor? Yeah. Okay, so let me take another example, 25.6. Yeah, Divya, can you tell me what is the round off function for this? I mean, what is the round of? No, mathematically, if you do convert this one, you will get 26. Yeah. So mathematically, whichever is more than 0.5, you will get 20, I mean, the next digit. So it's ceiling, as it will always take the highest integer. Yeah. What about floor? Yeah. Himanshu, can you tell round number for this one? 36. Yeah. What about ceiling? No, we need to take highest integer. So basically, it will be 36 or 37. Okay. In round off, it will take based on the mathematical calculation. Ceiling will take highest integer every time, and floor will take lowest integer, 36. Okay, so this we can use it in Tableau as well. So this is the, like, I will tell you one scenario where we use it like this. So let's say if you are going to a restaurant or some places. So if you are paying some 995, or let's say you have to pay some 992 rupees. So in such cases, if you do a round for this one, so you might need to pay 990 or something. But usually we pay 1,000 rupees and we'll let it go. So that means in some cases, in some business scenarios, so we might take the highest integer instead of doing the round for the lowest level. So we do highest round figures. So that's the reason we use this function. So now let's create this in Tableau. So, so I'll take sales. So I'll put it in text mode and I'll use country and I'll put some decimal places. So I want to see some decimal places. So right click on the measure, click on format, and in numbers, select number custom. So I want to see 2 decimal places. So here you can select how many number of decimals that you want to see. You can select. If you want to see 3, you can see. But in this case, I want to see only 2 decimals. So this is normal mathematical round function. Mathematical round off. And in the other sheet, I will create the same sum of sales. Okay, and I will, okay, so here I will use a function called ceiling. I'll use ceiling function, ceiling of sum of sales. Say okay. So instead of this one, I will use ceiling function. Okay, so okay, I will put this sheet name as ceiling, and in the other sheet, I will create and make a duplicate of this one. In the other sheet, instead of ceiling, I will put floor function. I'll so right click on this. You can make a duplicate of this calculation. Click on this and you can select duplicate. So there will be a copy which is created and you can edit that. So this I will make it as floor. And instead of ceiling function, I will write floor function. Say okay. And use this floor function and put it in the text. Okay. So mathematical round. So if you do 29,333.49. So mathematically, if you do, what will be the number for this? Divya, can you tell me what will be the number if I do a round off for this number? 29,333.49. Yeah, 333. So you can see if I remove the decimal places, so you can see that 333. Okay. Himanshu, can you tell me what is the number for 200.86? Yeah, perfect. So that is mathematically. Now we'll see in ceiling. So every time in ceiling, it will take the highest integer. So 29,334 it should be. Yeah, so we can see the highest integer. So mathematically, we get 29,333, but user has a requirement to see the highest integer. So instead of doing the lowest integer as the round off, so we can see the highest integer. And the next one, 200.86, mathematically also it is 201. So by using ceiling function also, we can see it as 201 only. And now we'll see for floor. For floor, it will take the lowest integer. So mathematically, this is 333. And in floor also, as we take the lowest integer, we can see it as 333. And for United States, if you see 200.86, so which is actually 201, but floor will take the lowest integer. So that's why it took 200. So this way, we can make use of these functions where you want to create a round function or ceiling and floor. So this is two for lowest integer round off, and this is for highest integer round off, highest integer round off. So that's about this thing. And now we'll see the other functions. Because now we'll see about sine function. So let's take an example of subcategory and sum of sales. Subcategory and sum of sales. And I'll create a bar chart. So instead of sales, I will take profit. So in profit, we'll have negative value. So I'm taking profit. Okay, and I will sort it based on the descending order. So here I can see in descending order, and I want to color the positive values, and I want to show the labels on top of this. Okay, so if sum of profit is greater than zero, then profitable, else non-profitable. And so this is about color condition. Say okay, and use this color in color marks card. So you can see the positive values are coming in profitable, and it is colored in orange color, and the negative values colored in blue color. So you can change the color to green. So profitable means good. So it is performing good, and non-profitable means it is performing bad. So to represent that, you can represent with green and red colors. So anyways, here I'm showing that. So profit is good, which I can see it in the right side, and negative side, I can see these values. So sometimes what happens is I want to see the values which are positive. I mean, I don't want to see the negative number to the value. So as anyways, we are showing it already. So the right side bars represented which are green in color are profitable, and the left side bars which are red in color are non-profitable. So in such cases, if I want to remove the sign, so I can use a function called sine of sum of sales. Or so this will give you what is the value it is there, or let's say sine of profit. So this you can use as a color condition as well. So instead of writing that color condition, so what this sign will store is, it will store whether the number is negative or positive. So that number will be stored. So say okay, and instead of color, use this calculation one in the color marks file. Okay, so you can see positive values are colored in positive way. I mean this blue color, and negative values are colored in red color. Or you can use exact red and green. So go here and select red, green diverging, and just put two step colors. Say okay. So this way we can make use of this sign function to determine which is having plus value and which is having minus value. So let's just see it in a tabular format. So duplicate as cross tab. So if you do duplicate as cross tab, so the bar chart which you are seeing right now, it will be converted into a tabular chart. So in the next sheet, you can see a tabular chart. Okay, so here we can see the calculation that we have created. So if the value is positive, it will show 1. If the value is negative, it will show -1. So this is the calculation which we have written, sign calculation, to determine the sign of the value. Okay, so determine the sign of the value, we can use this calculation. So instead of writing any lengthy calculations, let's say I have written a color condition saying if the profit is greater than 0, then profitable, else non-profitable. So instead of writing that calculation, you can just simply write this sign function, and you can determine which are having positive values and which are having negative values. So that is about sign function. Okay, and now we will see square root, square, and ASCII values and ZN function. So ZN function is very important function. So whenever you have nulls in your data, so let me create a data. So I'll just copy this data. So just view data, click on view data, and say Control A, Control C, and paste it here. Okay, so I have pasted this data. So I don't want these columns. I'll just remove it. Delete. Okay, so this is my data, measure names and measure values, which are there. And in some cases, what happens is I might not have any data. Okay, sometimes there will be nulls in my data. So I'll just do a copy. Session 8. So I'll just do a copy. So ZN function is to show, so whenever there is a null value in your data, so it will show you 0. So I'll just create calculator. Sorry, I'll just connect to the file which I have just created. Click on Excel. Let's do a save as and save it in the desktop. And let's go to desktop and let's connect this. Yeah, so Microsoft Excel. And click on desktop and click on session 8. Yeah. So here you can see the data which is there in Excel. So you can see that. And furnishings, I have removed the value. So and it is showing you null. And let's use this column and put this subcategory and put the measure value. Okay, so here you can see this thing. And let's say I'll create a calculation where I will write only 1, or I'll just put 2. Okay. So I want to multiply this sum of value with the 2. So I'll just try to use 2 calculation. Okay, so now I want to write a calculation saying sum of sum of 2 cal into sum of measure value, and say okay. So this is my new calculation, and if you see, you're not able to see anything here. So why? Because you are multiplying null with a uh, another value. So let's say the value which I have created. So it is having 2 value. So what I'm trying to do is I'm multiplying 41,937 with 2. Okay, so in that case, what happens? It is multiplying and giving you value. And whenever there is a null, so it is not giving you anything. Or let's say instead of doing multiplication, I'll do addition. Okay. So still you are not able to see anything. So you can't add any value, or you can't use it for multiplication and all. So when you have nulls in your data. So actually, so when there is nothing to add, so you should at least get this 2 value here. Okay, so 2 value is also not coming. Why? Because 2 plus null also you are getting null. So in such case, what we need to do is, so if we have null values in your data, so we normally add Zn function. So see this measure values column. So if I add Zn function, wherever there is null, so it will convert null to 0. Okay, so you can see 0 here. And we can also use this Zn function in calculations. So let's say calculation. So if I use Zn for this, so wherever there is null, it will replace it with 0. And you can see values coming based on that. And say okay. Okay, so now that we have 0, 0 plus 2, which is 2. Okay, earlier we are not able to see this 2 value. Why? Because we are adding it with null, so it won't give you anything. So that's the reason we need to have this Zn function. So to do some calculations, so otherwise the calculation which we have written won't work. So if you have nulls in your data. So to remove nulls, we need to use Zn function. So Zn function to replace nulls with zeros. Okay, to replace nulls with 0, we use Zn function. And now let's see the square root, square, and ASCII value. So to create some KPIs, we use these functions to create KPIs. So KPIs are nothing but key performance indicators, which will let us know how business is performing, whether the business is performing good or bad. We can decide with key performance indicators. So now let's create square root and square functions. Create a calculation field, and you can write square of 2. Square function. So square of 2 is nothing but 2 square, which is 4. So I'll just put this square function. Okay, so it will show you 4. So let's say if you are writing any calculation, square, so you will use these functions. If you want to add sum of sales with anything, sum of sales, sum of measure values, let's write. Okay, so if you are trying to multiply or add sum of measure value, so you can use this type of functions. So sometimes you will get the definitions like this: to multiply sum of measure value with square of 2, or you can use square function beside this one. So you can do square of all this. So 41,937 whole square. So that value you can see it here. Say apply. We take this square. Yeah. So you can see that value. So 41,937 whole square, you can see this value. And whenever it's 0 is there, 0 square, you won't get anything. So that is what is showing you null. Or if you use Zn function in that, so 0 square also, it will show you 0. Use Zn function. Say okay. Here you can see 0. So that's how we can create values. So if you're doing square of 3, so you can see square of 3 value, which is 9. And let's create a square root value. Let's make a duplicate and click on edit. And here I will create square root of, sorry, square root is nothing but sqrt, square root of 25. What is the square root of 25? Prashant, can you tell me what is square root of square root? Square root is 5, 5, 5. Square root will be 5. So what will be the square root of 9? 3. So those values we can see it. And now let's do ASCII value. So basically ASCII value will give us the ASCII value of the numbers that we have. Let's say every digit. So every digit has some ASCII value. Let's say A letter will have some value in computer, some 68 or 67. So B letter will have some 68 or 69. So like this, every alphabet will have some number. So that is called as a ASCII number. Now let's see, create a calculator field and we'll see what is the ASCII value for each and every numbers. So I want to see ASCII value for letter A. Say apply and click on this. Say okay and do an average. So every time, so it is in each and every row, it is writing that value and it is giving you sum. But we need the actual number. So just do an average. So just see the view and see the full data. So it is showing you for each and every row. So as we have these many rows in the data, so in each and every row, it is writing that ASCII value 65, 65. And when you are doing summing, so it is showing you, it is summing up everything and it is showing you. And when you do average, then only you will be able to see the exact value. So that's the reason I have done average. So that is the value for ASCII value for A and B if you want to see. So this is not much used in the data. So just for the information, I'm just telling you. So what is the value for V? So this is the ASCII value. So that's about these 4 functions: square root, Zn, square, and ASCII values. So to create a number calculation, so we can, so you create calculated field. So you can just click on this drop down and create calculated field, or you can go to analysis and there also you can see create calculated field. And you can see the list of number functions. So these are the list of number functions, not only square, square root and all. So you can also use tan, cos, cot. So all trigonometrical functions will also be available. So you might not use it, but if a situation comes where you need to use this logarithmic or trigonometrical, so we can also make use of those functions. Okay, so we have discussed about round and number functions, ceiling, floor functions, and well. So now we'll start about how to use string functions. So we have seen ASCII value, not only one letter. So if you take customer name column, so for each and every customer name, what is the ASCII value for that particular name? Let's go to sample superstore and put customer name in the rows and type in ASCII customer name. I'll just close this. Okay. And let me create a ASCII of customer name and say okay. So for each and every customer name, what will be the ASCII value that I can see, and make it as an average. Why? Because there are customer names which will get removed. Okay, so this way you can see ASCII value for entire name. So that's how we can find ASCII value. And let's go to next slides. And let's see length. So what is the length of these letters? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So how many letters are being used in the name? So to count that, so there is an automated function which is available where you can count the number of letters. So now let's see. Yeah. Yeah, Prashant. ASCII value, we don't use it much. So it is just for information I told you. So basically it's binary language. So every particular letter will have a number in computers. So it is just to know what is the number assigned for each and every letter. So it won't be used in any of the functionality. It is just for information I have told you. Yeah. And this is to know the length of the letters. So let's say we have, let me use length of the calculation. So length of the customer name. So what is the length of this? I mean, how many letters in this particular customer name if you want to see? So you can see that and make it as an average. Okay, so there are 13 letters in Aaron Bergman. And there are, so Adam Schillingsberg, 18 letters. So this will be used while you're creating any email ID using customer name or anything. So, so then you can find out, are there any, in some cases, you can find that email should not be more than 20 letters or email should not be more than 15 letters in your name. Okay, so in such cases, we can find out easily that what is the length of the characters that are there for the customer name. So this way you can use this length LEN function to know how many letters are there in the customer name. So in that way, it helps to know. And so every time this customer name is starting with a capital letter. But when we are writing email IDs, so what we will do is we will do have all letters as small. So there is a function called lower of customer name. So which will make all the letters in the names will be converted to lower letters. So I'll just write it as lower and say okay. So you can see even the starting letter, which is caps, so it's converted to lower letter. And this you can split it, create a custom split. So you can see the first letter Christina has been separated. And if you want to see the next split, so click on this. So what I want to do is last name dot. So I want to create a email ID. So last name is this lowest split 2 plus dot. So usually email IDs will be like, so let's say my name is Sagar Tumma. So I want to see a email ID tumma.sagar sagar@org.com. Okay, so I will keep all the letters as small. So in email ID, you won't see anything like caps T and like this. So we normally have all the letters small. So to convert it to lower letters, so I have used this lower function. And every time I want to keep in my organization, the format will be like this. So last name dot first name @org.com. Okay, so in that format, my name will be tumma.sagar @org.com. Okay, so I want to do this thing for all the letters. So that we can do. So I'm just commenting all this. Okay, so I can do that by, so here I'm taking the lower bit, which is the last name, and I'm adding dot. So how to add dot? So just keep plus symbol and in the single quotes put dot and add first name. So you can drag and put it here or you can write manually. And I want to add @org.com. So in the you can write in the single quotes @org.com. So this will create an email ID and say okay. Email ID. Okay, so here you can see an email ID which will be like all letters are in lower format, and you can see last name dot first name @org.com. So this way we can create a email ID by using the name which is there. So that's about email IDs. Okay, so that's about LEN and lower. So in some case, so in this case, we can also find out so which letters are having which names are having more length. So we can tell them to adjust their name accordingly to have 15 letters or 17 letters according to our naming convention. So that's about lower. So I'll just take a pause here. So if you have any questions. Any questions? Okay. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next slides. Sometimes what happens is we'll get uh, spaces in the data. So we need to clean the data and then make use of the columns which are there. So let me create a sample data. We insert. So I'll create a subcategory. Test subcategory. So this is a test column that I'm creating. So in some cases, so we get data in such a way that we'll get spaces. So there will be spaces in the beginning like this, or spaces after the names. So just put spaces after that, or sometimes you will have only the beginning spaces. And sometimes you will have only the end spaces. So I'll just, so this is not a clean data basically. So in data what you are getting from Oracle or SQL Server, so sometimes you will get data like this. So if you get data with some spaces, which will not look good. So I'll just add this to show. And before adding it, I need to save this file. And let's connect to that file again. Session 8, yeah. So you can see that column coming. So, and let me pull this subcategory test. Okay, so this is not looking good. So you have some spaces and which is not looking good. And if you put normal subcategory, which is coming normally. So all the names are coming properly. But if you see the bookcases and fasteners envelopes have some spaces in the beginning. So there is a function called ltrim and rtrim. So rtrim will remove the right side spaces. Click on edit alias, envelopes, edit alias, click on fasteners. Okay, so to remove these spaces, we use this function called ltrim. So whatever spaces that are there in the left side, so that will be removed. So I'll use this test, subcategory test. Say okay. So this is basically ltrim. Ltrim. Ltrim is to remove left side spaces. So this is basically cleaning the data. So just use this column. Okay, so now the spaces are removed. In the same way, if you have spaces in the right side, so you can just click on this and edit. You can use rtrim. So when you are doing rtrim, it won't do ltrim. I mean, left side spaces, it won't remove. Okay, you will still have this left side spaces. And there is a function called trim, which will remove left and right spaces. So rtrim will remove right side spaces. Trim will remove both left and right spaces. So now I'm just using trim. So this is removing both the spaces. There are no spaces in the beginning. So if you get data something like this, to remove spaces, you can use trim function. So trim. So here they have space in the beginning. Okay, so if you are using ltrim, so this is removing only the left side spaces, and you got this output. And the right side space is not removed because you're just using ltrim. And in case of rtrim, so it will just remove this right side space, and you will get the left side space. So you try to use trim function, which will remove right and left side spaces. Yeah, so that's about ltrim and rtrim. And now we'll discuss about max. Okay, so normally when we do max for numbers, so let's take, let me take category and sales. Okay, here I can see the value of sum of sales. And I also want to see max of sales. Max of sales. And make it discrete. Okay, so here I am able to see max of sales and furniture, the total sum. So how this is getting calculated is, so if I go to, or let me convert, let me take the data to CSV, or let me, so this is already a CSV, I'm just opening it. Okay, so here we have sum of sales and category as like this, and I want to sort this according to the descending order. So I'll sort this Excel into descending order. So this is basically the data that I'm connecting to Tableau. Okay, so if you see the sales is ordered in normal way, so alphabetical order or some other different order, but I want to sort this based on the value. So descending order, I want to sort it. So to do that, here we'll have an option to sort it. So just go to data and click on sort. And here you can sort by, you can select the condition, which is sales. And you can say largest to smallest. Say okay. And now I want to select furniture, let's say. Say okay. So what is the maximum value? 4,416. So that is the value you can see. So normally furniture sum of sales is nothing but, which is the total sum, which is 7,54,747. So that is basically your sum of sales. And what is the maximum value in all the data? So in all these records, you are having 4,416, which is the maximum value. So it will compare all the records and it will take the maximum value whenever you are using this max function. So it is giving you the max value. So yeah. So Prashant, can you tell me what is the maximum value for office supplies? Yeah, perfect. So that will become your office supplies value. And now let's see for technology. Himanshu, can you tell me what is the maximum value for technology? Yeah, yeah. So that will be shown as double this one. Okay, now we will see for minimum sales. So I'll convert this into minimum. And whatever is the minimum value in those rows, it will show. Okay, so now I'll sort it based on the ascending order. So earlier I have sorted it based on the descending order. So now I'll sort it based on the ascending. So click on this. So I want to sort by sales. So instead of largest to smallest, I will do smallest to largest. Okay, and so I will select category as office supplies. Okay, Divya, can you tell me what is the minimum value in this sales? Yeah, so 0.444 will be your minimum value. And sum will be same. So if you take the sum of total, which is 7,31,893. So you will see that. So this way we are able to find furniture and technology. So that's how it is comparing all the records and it is giving you the minimum sales and maximum sales. And not only that, so we can compare two values as well. So sales is there and profit is, I'll take profit as well. And I want to compare min of sum of sales, comma, sum of profit. A comparison. Say okay. And use this column. Okay, so it will compare these two values. So 19,730 and 7,54,000. And whatever is the minimum value, it will write that. So every time profit has less value. So that's why you are able to see profit value only. And so that way you can compare two different measures. And you can use max of also. So in max of also, it will compare these two values. And whichever is the maximum value, it will give you that value. So in both the profit and sales, every time sales value will be more. So you can see sales is coming here. So that way we can make use to compare with the two different measures as well. So not only with the entire row, we can also compare two different measures. So that's about max function. And we can use it for strings as well. So where it will compare the letters, and based on the size of the letter, so it will give you whether that value is max or min. Okay, so we can find min also for string function. So in apple and banana, apple will have the lowest value. So I mean, for string values, it doesn't matter. So min and max, we should not use it for string values. So it's basically for sum of sales and profit. And now we'll see to get the mid values. So there is a function called mid. Okay, so before going to discuss about, I think we have missed some slides. Yeah. So we have seen this ASCII functions. So there is an opposite function for this. So if we give value, so what is the letter that is there? So earlier we have discussed about ASCII. So if you give letter, what is the value for that ASCII it has given? And when you give number, what is the ASCII letter for this particular number that you can see? And there are some functions like contains customer name, and I will write a function called contains customer name. Okay, so in all the customer names, if I want to see if it contains, let's say letters like Aaron. Okay, so I want to see customer names contain Aaron and say apply and use this contains in filter and select true. Okay, so whichever name contains Aaron, I can see that values. Or you can write conditions like if Aaron contains equal to true, then you can mention contains Aaron. Else, so this is in this way you can do higher level categorization, higher level grouping you can do, and say n and make use of this. So you can see wherever there is Aaron, you can see this contains Aaron. So this condition is getting satisfied, and you can see this contains Aaron. And wherever it is not matching, I said to write others. So this way you can make a grouping. Or and you also have one more condition. Can you go on mute? Who's... Okay, so we also have conditions like starts with and ends with. So let's choose these conditions. So whichever starts with letter A, letter, let's say AD. If this is true, then say starts with AD. Say apply. And you need to write else if. Okay, so there are some names which starts with AD. So these are the names which are starting with AD. And also we can write ends with condition. So in the name itself, it decides, it tells us that whichever names ends with. So this is the column name that we need to give. So we are telling to Tableau that check this column. So whichever ends with letters like, let's say any. If this is true, then you can write something like ends with any. Say apply. Okay, so there are some letters which are ending with any. So let's put this in the starter. Okay, so you can see which contains Aaron and which ends with any and starts with AD. Yeah, starts with AD. So this way we can make use of these functions. So these are called as uh, string functions. So you can use ends with and starts with. So to design, let's say in some cases we have created this calculation. Yeah, where we have given @org.com. So sometimes you might have different email IDs. Like you might have @gmail.com or @yahoo.com. So if you want to make out that thing, so whichever ends with @yahoo.com, or let's say I'll take an example of, so let's create a new calculation. Create a new calculation. I want to see if email ID contains, or I'll just say ends with email ID. Check the email ID column @org.com equal to true. Then show email ID and say apply. Or you can mention the org, say apply. So I'll use this calculation too. Okay, so you can just show that which organization it is. So let's say if you have some other conditions, or if you have, let me take this. You can write conditions like else if you have ends with some yahoo.com, and you can mention Yahoo like this. Okay, so this way you can see from which organization you're getting these emails and all. So that way you can find out. So let me give you, let me edit alias. Or for some of them, I'll create email ID as. So here I have created this thing. And for some of them, I'll create uh, if starts with customer name A. So whoever starts with A, I will keep it as equal to true. Then this thing. Okay, and else if I'll write yahoo.com. I'll take this entire thing and I'll put @yahoo.com and end. Just put else instead of else if and say apply. Okay, and customer name. Okay, so customer names whose names are starting with A, I have set it as use some @org.com, and whosever name is not starting with A, so there I'm using yahoo.com. Okay, and here I'm separating org and Yahoo. So that is based on, so whichever is ends with @org.com, I have separated this org, and whichever ends with @yahoo.com, I have separated it with Yahoo. So the calculation that we have written, calculation 2. So whichever ends with @org.com. So whenever this condition gets satisfied, I told Tableau to write org, And whenever this gets ends with @yahoo.com, so then it has to show Yahoo. So this way we can decide this way we can make use of these string functions. And to find the nth value, so let's say the letters. So let's say what is the position of the letters in the calculation, and create a calculation field. Find in customer name. So letter A. So I want to see where this letter A is getting started. Say apply. Use this find and make it as average. Average. Yeah. So you can see for Tony Chapman, so the letter E is at 8th position. So you can count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if you want to know the position of the letters, or if you go to our calculation, okay, @org.com. So I'll take email ID here. I want to see where this @org.com is coming. @org.com. What is the position of that @org.com? Say apply and use this calculation 3. Remove calculation 1 and make it as an average. Okay. So in 14th position, we are getting this org.com. That means basically to know what is the length of your name, first name and last name. So it's basically you have 13 letters before this org.com. So that way we can find the length and we can find where this exactly is starting @org.com. Yeah, so that those are the string functions. So these many functions we can use. And we have seen mid and so to know the mid calculation and all. So let's see mid. Customer name. So earlier we have seen left function. So let's say if we use customer name and I want to see left 4 letters, say apply calculation 4. So if I want to see left side 4 letters, so I can specify the number, I can see 4 letters. And let's say if I enter 5, so I can see 5 letters. And there is a function called right. So if you want to see from right side, if you want to see 2 letters, so it will take from right side. So from right side, you have these values, A and NS values. Or if you want to see, so this is to make some kind of email IDs, or if you want to make IDs in your organization. So in such cases, you can make these functions. So this is taking the letters from the right side. It is counting 5 letters and it is giving you those things. And there is a function called mid. So left and right we have seen. And now we can specify from middle, I want to see uh, starting from second letter, I want 5 letters. So what is second letter? It is A. Or take an example of this one. So for second letter is this one, Adam Hart. It is, I told Tableau to see it from the second letter, and I want, from there I want 5 letters. And say apply. Yeah. From second letter, it is taking dam space H. So from there, even the space is getting counted. So from there, it is giving me 5 letters. Or if I want 2 letters from there. So this is to just to create any email IDs or any kind of IDs that you want to create from the customer names. As we have created something similar to email ID. So by cutting this entire name, so I have splitted these names into 2, and last name I have added it in the starting, and dot the first name. In the same way, you can use this mid, left, right functions to create any kind of IDs in your organization. We can make use of this function. So that's about string functions and numerical functions. Any questions? Okay, so Divya, can you tell me what does ltrim does? What is the use of ltrim? Okay. Prashant, can you tell me what does left function do? Okay. Himanshu, can you tell me what left function does? Okay, so no problem. So left function will just show. Yeah, Divya, tell me. Yeah, left side నుంచి ఎన్ని లెటర్స్ తీసుకోవాలనేది we can decide. Right, if I use right function, so right side నుంచి ఎన్ని లెటర్స్ అనేది we can decide. And mid, yeah, so mid function. So from the middle, if you want something, so starting from second letter, I want 4 letters, or starting from third letter, I want 3 letters or something like this. So whatever you put in the first comma, after first comma, that will decide from where do you want to start. In the next, after the next comma, how many letters that you want. So that it is starting from the third letter, which is R. And from there, I want to see 3 letters that we can specify. So that's about today's session. So yeah, Divya. Okay, so okay, for every time you might get some errors. So let's say, so every time you need to, so let's say if you are putting any condition, so you need to have else if you are not putting any condition, let's say else you can put else you want to show something different, or else say nothing, no email ID. Okay, here I'm not writing any condition, and let's say if you write else if for this, so it will throw an error. So it is saying you're not using any condition, expected then to match. So then you need to write some condition here. So there are, I mean, errors will be different. So for each and every condition, errors will be different. Can you specify what kind of error you are getting? Mm, Okay, so we have to know the syntax properly. So otherwise, let's say if I am not writing then here, okay, so then it will throw an error. Expected then to match. So sometimes it will tell you what is missing. So based on that, we can correct it. And there are some scenarios, let's say, uh, if you are not using the proper syntax. So if you see, we have used its mid function, calculation 4. Okay, so you need to know the mid function format. So if you type, if you click on this mid here, you can see how you need to write. So that first of all, you need to take the field and comma 2, comma 3 like this. Otherwise, you won't, let's say instead of putting the number, if I put something in quotes, so this will not get satisfied. Why? Because so mid function, you have to write a field, comma, a number. So you're writing a text value there, so which will not suffice. So mid is being called with string, comma, string. So did you mean string, comma, float? So this field is string only, which means the text value. But here I'm supposed to give a number value. So instead of number, if I'm giving a text value, it will not approve. I mean, it will throw an error saying that you are using a text value. So then you can say a value. Okay, so it will middle 7 values it will show you. So every error will be unique, and you can correct that error by seeing the error message. Is it clear? Yeah. So let me know like if you are getting any error. So take a screenshot of that error and send me. We can figure it out what type of error it is. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all for joining. We'll continue tomorrow.